What's up guys, Dragonwell here, back again with another discussion video. So this video is going to be a follow-up of the video that I made last week of the video that was what's good in Series 6 Battle Stadium singles. So last time we went over these 12 Pokemon, the top 6 being, the first set of 6 being what I considered potential like top tier threats, and the bottom being lesser but still main threats in the Series 6 metagame. And today I'm going to be showing off the actual usage stats from the first week of the metagame, and basically going to compare, just follow up with what my initial thoughts were on the metagame. So yeah, it's basically going to be looking at what I was right and what I was wrong in terms of I guess predictions, I guess you can say, in the first video. So if I predicted things right or wrong, we'll see from these usage stats right here. So these are the usage stats of the Battle Stadium singles metagame in the first week. It's basically pulling data from the home app on your phone. So yeah, it doesn't have any usage percentages like in Showdown. Showdown has all the usage percentages. It has all the EVs as well, but in home they don't really show the EVs. They only show the natures. They show the ranking, like the number one used mon is this, but it doesn't show the usage percentage, so we don't know how many people actually use Dracozolt. We just know it's number one. Speaking of which, Dracozolt unsurprisingly is number one. Yeah, I mean, I covered it in my video, in my first video, that Dracozolt was going to be the top contender for the I guess you can call it the Cinderace slot of this metagame. Yeah, it just has a fantastic offensive typing, and a fantastic move, great ability that works very well with Dynamax. As you can see here, Life Orb and Choice Scarf are both pretty even. Choice Scarf, obviously, it lets you outspeed stuff like, it actually lets you outspeed the entire metagame, bar a Ninjask, but nobody uses Ninjask. That isn't Choice Scarf. So yeah, I mean, Choice Scarf is a fantastic move item on Dracozolt because it also doubles Volt Beak damage. And Life Orb, Life Orb is it boosts every single Dynamax move as well. So combine that with Hustle, it just does like incredible amounts of damage. So yeah, Dracozolt being number one, not too surprising there. Number two actually was Primarina. So I covered Primarina as a lesser threat. Well, I mean, it's still top 12, so it's not a lesser threat by any means, but I didn't put it in the top 6. But it turns out Primarina is actually very, very strong in this format. I'm also, like, in my climb this season to Master Ball, I used a team with Primarina. It's actually very, very good. I mean, Water Fairy has always been a fantastic typing. And yeah, like there's also Azumarill, who's a physical variant of Water Fairy, but given how most of the threats have been are physical in this metagame, and most walls are going to be physically oriented rather than special, Primarina, it's no surprise that Primarina takes a higher ranking in usage over Azumarill. Not to say Azumarill is bad, but Primarina with Moonblast and a water move has fantastic coverage, just these two moves alone. Obviously gets walled by Ferrothorn, but you have other Pokemon for that. Surprising to see Energy Balls in such high usage, but Energy Ball is great coverage as well. It's for opposing Primarina, obviously, because when Primarina is number two, yeah, Energy Ball is a very nice option to have against the number 2 most used mon in the metagame. As you can see here, the stats are very nice for a special attacker. Not too heavy on the defensive side, but you can cover that with an HP investment in EVs. Because yeah, I mean, you don't really stay in against physical attackers like Dracozolt. But these stats are enough to take Wicked Blow from Urshifu, close combats. You can switch in once if it's not choice banded. Um, yeah, I mean, it's decent enough to where like HP, just having full HP investment is good enough to, for Primarina to take not very effective physical hits. It's also kind of important to put in some speed though, because again, there's a lot of Primarina. And Primarina like mirrors actually depends a lot on their speed stats. So investing, 12 EVs or even 20 in some cases, or even more, will help you a lot in the Primarina matchup, especially since a lot of them carry Energy Ball. Or if you carry Calm Mind, then being able to Calm Mind before the enemy Primarina launches Energy Balls at you, which does like 30%, I believe, when you're at +1, that helps a lot too. Yeah, I mean, usually you see Assault Vest because Primarina can have 4 attacks: Water Move, Moonblast, Energy Ball, and Aqua Jet, I believe is the most common one. Yeah, Aqua Jet as the final 4th move. That's basically all the coverage that you need. Aqua Jet lets you snipe stuff with Focus Sash, so most commonly Urshifus. So you Moonblast them, and then you bring them down to Focus Sash, and then you Aqua Jet for the final kill. Yeah, and then the other 3 attacks, Moonblast, Sparkling Aria, or Scald, either or. I prefer Scald because obviously there's, the secondary effect of Scald is insane. Sparkling Aria is also not bad because it goes through substitutes. So, things like substitute Butterfree, for example, or opposing substitute Primarina, you get to Sparkling Aria them and then hit them behind the sub. Obviously, substitute Primarina also often carry Calm Mind, so you need to make sure that the opposing Primarina is in range of Sparkling Aria, because Sparkling Aria against boosted Primarinas doesn't really do a lot of damage, so it really needs to be like a finishing blow. So say like the opposing Primarina has 30% HP, it uses sub, it has 5% HP, so that's a very opportune time to use Sparkling Aria because they're at 5%. Unless they're at +6 and you're at +0, Sparkling Aria will be enough to take the kill. Yeah, and leftovers, as I said earlier, it's useful for the substitute Calm Mindset, which is very nice. Oh, I forgot this other coverage, Psychic. It seems only 11% of people use it, but Psychic is mostly for Toxapex, because again, Toxapex resists both of Primarina's stabs. Obviously, Psychic is not useful against Ferrothorn because, yeah, it's Ferrothorn. But yeah, Psychic is also just like another move that you can probably put over Aqua Jet if you don't want Aqua Jet. Personally, I do recommend using Aqua Jet if you're using Assault Vest. And if you're using leftovers, substitute plus Calm Mind, and then Moonblast, obviously you always run Moonblast, and one of the water moves, Sparkling Aria or Scald. You don't really need Energy Ball if you're running Calm Mind substitute because mostly the Energy Ball variants are going to be the Assault Vest variants. They're not going to be able to boost up alongside you, so if you're boosting up enough, then you can just Moonblast and do more to them than they do to you, basically. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can cover the other items. Focus Sash might be useful in some rare cases, like surprise killing a Dracozolt, I guess. The Dracozolt just bull beaks you, you live on a Focus Sash, and you revenge kill it with Moonblast. But yeah, it's not that common. Usually it's you run one of these 2 items. Liquid Voice is not too useful compared to Torrent because yeah, Liquid Voice only helps if you're running Hyper Voice. I mean, I guess you can run Hyper Beam and make it water type, but you have Hydro Cannon anyway. Liquid Voice, unlike the other Pixelate and like the other 8 abilities, it doesn't boost the move. It just keeps the same base power but turns normal type into water type moves. So it really only helps with Hyper Voice, which is a doubles thing. You usually just use Sparkling Aria instead of Liquid Voice, Hyper Voice. And Torrent, obviously, especially with Substitute, you get to adjust your HP to put yourself into Torrent, and then you fire off water moves at 1.5 times the power, which is, already given this pretty high special attack stat. Lets Primarina dish out pretty heavy blows. All right, So up next is Urshifu. The two Urshifus are actually in the top 5. A Rapid Strike is before the one Single Strike. Here I just put them next to each other. I didn't really like put them in order. They're not in any particular order, but yeah, Rapid Strike is more used than Single Strike right now. Mostly because, well, personally, the team that I used to get Master Ball, it had the Single Strike one, but Rapid Strike is also really nice because it allows you to beat Focus Sash mons, and it also is very helpful against Rhyperior, which we'll get to later. Because I mean, you can still close combat Rhyperior, of course, but having a 4 times effective move against Rhyperior makes a huge difference, considering Rhyperior has a lot of physical bulk and also has Solid Rock. So yeah, I mean, it's not like Surging Strikes kills Rhyperior. I don't think Surging Strike kills Dynamax Rhyperior from full, but either way, like having a little bit of chip on Rhyperior puts it in range of Surging Strikes, which makes Rapid Strike a better variant than Single Strike in a vacuum. But yeah, it really depends on your team, right? If you have already 2 other water types, then you probably don't want to use Rapid Strike, and you probably want to use Single Blow instead. But yeah, I mean, if you just look at the other teammates, the other Pokemon, yeah, it's also good against counter. So Pokemon that use counter is like Snorlax, I believe. Snorlax uses counter 27%, yeah. Yeah, you get to beat Diggersby's Focus Sash. Yeah, you see 44% of Diggersby are Focus Sash. Scizor, I think, also uses counter. No? Oh, only a few of them. Okay. But yeah, either way, Urshifu Rapid Strike, the Surging Strikes is just such a versatile move in terms of what it can do, that it's just usually in contrast to 6v6, I know in 6v6 the Single Strike is used more, but in 3v3 Rapid Strike is, it fits on more teams, I should say. I think that's the best way to put it. Alright, number 4 is actually the first mon that we haven't discussed in last time's video. Is Charizard, so I haven't discussed Charizard. It probably makes sense to put Charizard over Volcarona in this case, but basically Charizard is a fantastic Airstream user, so and you know, it also has a very nice speed stat. I mentioned speed stat a lot in the last video, but yeah, basically Urshifu is 97, Hydreigon is 98, Charizard is 100, so that's a very good thing to be able to dish out attacks before any of these other mons. Yeah, it's pretty ironic that Solar Beam is the most used move on Charizard, but it makes sense when, you know, people are running Rhyperior, people are running Primarina. Yeah, I mean, and also it has a lot of fire moves to choose from. So it has Blast Burn. Blast Burn lets you use Max Flare with 150 base power, and it's basically you basically make Charizard only useful in Dynamax form. Like you send Charizard out just for Dynamax, basically. So some people run Blast Burn. Flamethrower or Fire Blast is also like a nice option so that Charizard can work outside of Dynamax. I mean, obviously, like if you kill 2 mons with Dynamax Charizard and then the opponent only has 1 mon left, then you can just Blast Burn and there's no real downside to it. But you know, the downside of having Blast Burn is if you choose Charizard, you have to Dynamax it basically, or else you're giving your opponent a free turn with Blast Burn recoil, and you don't want that to happen. Yeah, I mean, Flying move is mandatory as well for the max Airstream. You can choose between Air Slash and Hurricane. Hurricane is just slightly higher base power than Air Slash. With Dynamax, it's 140, and whereas Air Slash is 130. But Air Slash, like I was talking about earlier, is useful outside of Dynamax. And Hurricane is actually, well, you know, thanks to the accuracy, and especially if you're using non-Gmax forms, non-Gmax variants, and set up Sun, then your own Hurricane becomes 50% accurate. So yeah, it's not very reliable, I should say. Lastly, Dragon Pulse. This is usually your other coverage option. You know, your two stab moves, Solar Beam's almost mandatory, and then your last is Dragon Pulse or Scorching Sands. Either or is fine. I prefer Dragon Pulse because Max Wormwind is actually really useful, especially against Dracozolt. Um, if you're both Dynamax, then you get to give Dracozolt the -1 and actually live the Max Lightning. Without the without the without the -1, Charizard just completely gets destroyed by Max Lightning from a Dracozolt. So yeah, Dragon Pulse in that sense, so basically Max Wormwind, is actually very, very useful for Charizard. Scorching Sands is it's a move you use if you're, again, using the non-mandatory Dynamax version, such as with Flamethrower, because Scorching Sands has a very nice secondary effect of burning your opponent. So I don't think anyone would send out an Urshifu against a Charizard if you use Scorching Sands, then it burns the Urshifu. Yeah, I mean, I don't see. I guess Snorlax is the one that makes the most sense in this regard. So people send out Snorlax because Snorlax has stick fat, and can resist Charizard's incoming Max Flare, right? Like it just bounces off Snorlax. But instead, if the Charizard doesn't Dynamax and uses Scorching Sands, then it can burn the Snorlax. And yeah, I mean, it also has like the added benefit of boosting Spadef, but it's not as crucial as Max Wormwind, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, that's Charizard. So yeah, it was actually I didn't even mention it here, but yeah, Charizard makes it to number 5, so that's pretty cool. Number 6, Ferrothorn. That was also in the top 6 as well in my list. It's not too surprising, right? Like the number 2 best mon is Primarina. Ferrothorn completely destroys Primarina. It does the same thing as it always did. Yeah, I mean nothing's changed from Series 5 in terms of what Ferrothorn does. The main difference, I think, is that there's a lot more Occaberry sets. I made a team with Occaberry Ferrothorn as well, and that's because there's just a lot more different fire types. So previously the main fire type was obviously Cinderace. And Occaberry doesn't really help Ferrothorn against Cinderace because Gmax Fireball is 160 base power. It's way too strong for Ferrothorn to take, even with an Occaberry. So Occaberry it was used occasionally, but it was not is not as common as right now, because right now the main fire move, obviously it won't help against Charizard, but Dracozolt actually runs fire moves, Fire Fang or Flamethrower, and Occaberry allows Ferrothorn to live that once, right? Like it only takes like 40% from Flamethrower. Depends on how you EV your Ferrothorn, but against the non-invested special tech Dracozolt, you take like 40% from Ferrothorn after 40% from Flamethrower after eating your Occaberry. So I mean, obviously it takes you out in 2 hits, but yeah, I mean, it makes you survive Fire Fang, which obviously boosted by Hustle does a lot of damage. But yeah, I mean, it's otherwise, like, Leftovers being the most common item is not really too surprising. It does the Leech Seed, Gyro Ball, Protect. One PSA is if you're using Protect, don't Protect against Urshifu. In my climb to Master Ball, I've met a few people forgetting about Unseen Fist. If you guys don't know, Unseen Fist is Urshifu's ability. It basically ignores protecting moves. So if you use Protect, Detect, Urshifu will just hit you right through it. So yeah, if you're running Ferrothorn, and I believe I ran into Ferrothorn that protect against my Urshifu. I think I ran into Umbreon that protected against my Urshifu, and I think I ran into did I run into an Aegislash that King shielded against my Urshifu? But point is, don't forget about Unseen Fist. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't personally run Protect. It's like if it's not against Urshifu, Protect is fine, I guess. So yeah, I mean, Protect makes sense. You get to stall out, terrain turns, weather turns, Leech Seed damage, maybe Trick Room turns if you want to stall that out for whatever reason with a Ferrothorn. Protect is useful in a lot of different ways. So I mean, Protect makes sense. Right, number 7, Rhyperior. So Rhyperior is also something that I didn't put in the top 12. I did mention it a lot. I mentioned ground types a lot, I think. in last time's video. So I mentioned stuff like Diggersby, I didn't mention Mamoswine, but Mamoswine is up there too. Rhyperior and I believe, what other ground types did I say? Did I say Quagsire or Seismitoad? But yeah, anyways, there's a lot of ground types that I think were going to be good, but not necessarily top 12 threats when in the beginning of the month. But yeah, Rhyperior actually took a huge boost in usage. So right now it's actually number 7. Previously, I don't really know what ranking it was, but it was definitely not in the top 10. So yeah, I mean, Rhyperior came up a lot. It does the same thing. Like the moveset itself is not too different from Series 5. It has the same items as well, Weakness Policy or AV. And yeah, I mean, it does the same thing it always did. The main downside is, well, I mean, the main upside, let's just start with that. The main upside is there's no more Rillaboom, right? That's very, very, very big because Rillaboom, especially in front of a Rhyperior, it won't hesitate. It'll just it'll Gigantamax and use the Drum Solo, which ignores Solid Rock. Usually, like Rhyperior, even if it's ×4 weakness, right? Like Rhyperior can live a Waterfall from Gyarados. It can. I don't know if it lives a Grassy Glide from Rillaboom. Maybe if it's like a Focus Sash Rillaboom, it'll live a Grassy Glide. But yeah, G-Max Drum Solo will destroy Rhyperior even after Dynamax. So yeah, that being gone is huge for Rhyperior. But the main downside is obviously Primarina. Primarina just hits super hard on the special side. Rhyperior doesn't really have that bulk to take on that. You can run Assault Vest, obviously, but yeah, even after G-Max, even after Dynamaxing Rhyperior, you're still taking significant amounts of damage from Primarina. But obviously, like, and I don't think you live Max Geyser, by the way. Maybe. You might live Max Geyser if you're Dynamax, but barely. And you may or may not one-shot Primarina back with +2, Max Rockfall or something. But yeah, I mean, it does the same thing, right? Solid Rock, Weakness Policy, AV. Yeah, I mean, people run it with Trick Room, but in the past, right, in Series 5, people ran it with Trick Room. So, they have Porygon 2 and Rhyperior. Porygon 2 sets up Trick Room, and then Rhyperior comes in and then goes ham. Yeah, but right now, like, people run it on just standard teams. Like, they don't need Trick Room support. They just send out Rhyperior, knowing that it can take a hit, and then they just go ham with it. I mean, the main draw is obviously like Dracozolt being number 1, but it has to be careful because it doesn't necessarily win against Dracozolt 1v1 because Dracozolt has Max Wormwind, which lowers Rhyperior's attack. So Dracozolt will take 2 Max Quakes, and Rhyperior will be very low after 2 Max Wormwinds. So yeah, I mean, it's not really in Rhyperior's favor against Dracozolt. So like, I mean, this is a testament to how good Dracozolt is in this metagame. Not even Rhyperior is that safe of a check to Dracozolt. Even if Rhyperior takes Dracozolt out, it'll have lowered stats, lowered attack from Max Wormwind, and like completely useless. Basically, it becomes setup fodder for the next mon. So that's not good too. So I mean, there's very good reasons to use Rhyperior, right? Like Rhyperior has fantastic stats, but there's also some things that you need to keep in mind when using Rhyperior. I think it's like personally, I think it's just a trend right now. I don't think it's gonna stay I'll be surprised if it stays top 10 like throughout the whole season. I mean, it's very good, but I don't know if it will stay here that long. All right, next up is Hydreigon. So Hydreigon was one of the top 6 mons that I mentioned in last time's video. Yeah, and it's basically for the reasons that I noted in last time's video. Choice Scarf sets lets it outspeed Choice Scarf Dracozolt, Choice Scarf Urshifu by 1 point, so that's very good. It just uses Dark Pulse, Draco Meteor, U-Turn. So U-Turn's very nice with Choice Scarf because you get to scout out opponents, and Fire Blast. You don't use this is a PSA. Don't use Flamethrower on Hydreigon because Flamethrower does not kill Darmanitan. Fire Blast does. So use Fire Blast when you're running Hydreigon, Scarf Hydreigon. So yeah, speaking of Darmanitan, that's also another reason why you use Hydreigon, because it's faster than Scarf Darmanitan. And yeah, you get to Fire Blast and one-shot it, basically. Yeah, and Draco Meteor, Scarf Draco Meteor is very helpful against Dracozolt because, you know, even Dynamax Dracozolt takes like 90, I believe it's like 95 to 103% with Draco Meteor, so it's an insane range. It's like not in Hydreigon's favor, but a lot of Dracozolt are Life Orbs, so after, you know, a Draco Meteor and a Life Orb hit from Dracozolt, then the Hydreigon, well, I mean, they both go down if it's like a Max Worm Wind, right? Then usually like the Dracozolt also dies, and yeah, I mean, you basically lose your Hydreigon, but you take out your opponent's, you know, likely strongest sweeper plus their Dynamax. I think that's a very nice trade. But yeah, like Choice Scarf is obviously like the most common set. Appears some people are running Choice Specs and Life Orb. I've never run into those, but you know, props to them. Yeah, but Choice Scarf is, like I said in the previous video, Choice Scarf is definitely the way to go in terms of Hydreigon. Right, and I'm just going to be covering the top 10. I'm not going to be going over every single mon, because, well, I mean, I could like briefly cover the top 20, I guess. But the top 10 is going to be like the main thing that I'm going to be covering in this video. Alright, so next up is Rotom Heat. So Rotom Heat, I predicted Rotom Wash to be actually like a very nice mon in the meta. It turns out Rotom Heat is actually, and this is something that I probably should have realized when I was making last week's video, but Rotom Heat is actually very nice because it resists electric, right? I was mentioning how Rotom Wash was fine against electric, but you know, Rotom Heat, it actually resists it, so that's very, very good. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing otherwise, right? Besides being a different form. Choice Scarf lets it outspeed Dracozolt, and you know, you can trick stuff to cripple defensive mons. You can Will-O-Wisp Urshifus after being faster than them, which is very, very nice. Yeah, I mean, the one downside over Rotom Wash is that it doesn't have a great matchup against Primarina. But I mean, you can just Volt Switch out of those anyway. And yeah, I'm surprised some people are running Dark Pulse, but I guess this is just people using their Series 5 teams with Rotoms. So they're just using the same Pokemon, but they're just keeping the same sets because they're just too lazy. Dark Pulse I don't think is that useful without Dragapult around. Before you ran Dark Pulse because, you know, you want something to hit Dragapult, right? Like a Max Darkness with Dark Pulse is very nice because it also lowers the target's Spadef stat as well. But without Dragapult, I don't really see too much use of Dark Pulse. You usually run, you know, Overheat, Volt Switch or Discharge, and Trick and Will-O-Wisp if you're running Choice Scarf. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that I was mentioning regarding Rotom Wash. It's just instead of Rotom Wash, it resists electric and struggles a bit more with Primarina, but I mean, yeah, I mean, Rotom Wash also kind of struggles against Primarina because of Energy Ball. The other upside of Rotom Heat over Rotom Wash is that you have so many like good water types to compete with. If you're, as you know, you don't really want to have too many of the same types on your team. So if you're running Rotom Wash and then if you're running Urshifu, Rapid Strike, then you don't want to have a Primarina. Like, it gets hard to fit all three in the same team. So in that sense, Rotom Heat is actually a really nice addition, or an option to have, you know, a choice trick mon with Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic mon. Either way, I mean, it does, yeah. It's the same thing in Series 5, minus, I think, you know, like I said earlier, less emphasis on Dark Pulse. All right, number 10 is something that I did not mention in last time's video, is Snorlax. So Snorlax, it's back to being very good thanks to Cinderace being gone. But it still has a lot to deal with Urshifu. obviously. Yeah, I mean it's still yawning as usual before, like in the beginning of Gen 8 and in Gen 7 as well, is yawning a bunch. Um, but yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting because it's turned into, before there was like yawn protect, heavy slam, I don't know what the last move was. It was like earthquake or um, heat crash or whatever. Like your fourth move is whatever, but now it's turned into like a status sponge and also like a status spreader, as well as having counter. So there's two main types of Snorlax. I believe the best way to show it is in the items. So yeah, there's, well, I guess there's Assault Vest. I don't really count. I don't really count Assault Vest as like a unique kind of set. It's just abusing Snorlax's amazing Spadef bulk and then just dishing out damage. But the two main sets I wanted to talk about was Figgy Berry and Leftovers. So Leftovers is usually Yawn, Yawn, Facade, or Body Slam, Earthquake, and Protect sometimes. But I guess there's no more Protect because of Urshifu. Yeah, basically you're just yawning a bunch, you're forcing the opponents to switch, and then when you're forcing your opponents to switch, you're just getting Leftovers recovery. So that's the idea behind Leftovers. And Figgy Berry is for the Facade, Heavy Slam counter, and a fourth move set. So basically what that allows you to do is take a big chunk of damage from physical attacks, right? Like Snorlax has very bad defense, but it has a lot of HP. So it's going to take a lot of damage. It's going to take like, over half from a physical attack. Obviously not from Bolt Beak. Like Bolt Beak does way more than half. But you take over half, you heal up with Figgy Berry thanks to, what's its ability again? It's Gluttony, right? Gluttony. So Gluttony lets you heal 1/3 of your HP at less than 50%. So usually Figgy Berries trigger at 25%, but with Gluttony you get to trigger at 50%. And basically what that lets you do is just fire off 2 strong counters, usually. Because yeah, I mean, it's just so strong. Because you're taking a lot of damage, right? You have low defense, but you have a lot of HP. But if you're taking half of your HP gone, but that's still since your base HP is very, very high, your counter is doing an insane amount of damage back. So you're going to be at 60%, right? After you're taking the physical hit and then healing up with your berry, you're still going to be at 60%, but you KO'd one Mon. And then the next Mon, you can still dish out, half of their HP so that your next Mon can revenge kill. So it's basically like a 2-for-1 Mon, and a fantastic one at that. So it has two sets, like 2 main sets, and I guess there's Assault Vest here as well. But yeah, basically the main idea is you can either be a status sponge and also a status spreader with Yawn Facade, or you get to be a counter like 2-for-1 Mon with Snorlax as well, which is pretty great. And it makes sense that it's in top 10. I don't think I've ever mentioned Snorlax in any of these descriptions, but yeah, it makes sense that Snorlax is in the top 10. Obviously, it still has to watch out for Urshifu's and Rhyperior. Rhyperior can Rock Blast Snorlax, though even like Rock Blast is still going to be doing a lot of damage to Snorlax. Like, okay, the way counter works is, so say Rock Blast hits 3 times. The way counter works is it only doubles the last hit. So since Rock Blast, like each individual hit is weak, counter is not going to be doing too much back to Rhyperior. But it's still doing a lot considering, because again, Snorlax has a lot of HP and bad defense. So you're still losing a lot of HP, just not a lot percentage wise. So you're still doing a lot damage back to Rhyperior with counter, is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, next is Aegislash. So Aegislash, I'm surprised it's actually this high. Yeah, I mean, I've seen Aegislash a few times. It's very awkward because Aegislash is not a great Dynamax Mon, because you can turn into Blade form when you're Dynamax, but you don't revert to Shield form when you're Dynamax. Like Max Guard doesn't turn you into Shield form, Only King Shield does that, and you can't King Shield while you're Dynamaxed. So Aegislash I think is a bit awkward. But yeah, I mean its weakness policy is the main set. Azumarill, again, it's the physical Primarina. It makes sense because Primarina is very good. Azumarill is also really, really nice. The main set is Assault Vest because you know, it has very nice HP, and yeah, I mean it doesn't really need to set up if it's just going to Dynamax and try to kill as many things as much as possible. So yeah, I mean that's Azumarill, pretty straightforward. Grimmsnarl is yeah, I mean it does the same thing it always did. There's more trick sets because yeah, trick with Lagging Tail. That's a lot more common now because yeah, it's just a lot easier to bring in Grimmsnarl and just trade items with like and cripple, you know, a airstreaming Dracozolt or like a faster Urshifu, an airstreaming Charizard. There's just a lot of things that Grimmsnarl can potentially cripple. Diggersby, I used Diggersby on my team. It was Focus Sash as well. Yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward what it does. It's a ground type, so that's also very, very nice to absorb Bolt Beak, and with huge power you're still doing a lot of damage. Flail is actually a very, very funny move. So Flail was used, I believe, like 2 seasons ago. Yeah, like there was someone who finished very, very high ranked with Flail Diggersby, and basically what Flail does. So you use Flail with Endure, which is, I'm surprised it's not in here, but I guess most people use Focus Sash anyway. But yeah, what Flail lets you do is it basically gives Diggersby a 200 base power move, thanks to Focus Sash or Endure if you really want to. And you get to, it OHKOs Dynamax Mons. Like it OHKOs Dynamax Primarina. So you basically you send it out against Primarina, you know, you get sent out to Focus Sash and then you just Flail and it just destroys everything. Yeah, and you bounce for max Airstream if you want to max Airstream. But yeah, I believe yeah, there's actually quite a few Mons in the bottom 6 that haven't even come up yet. Let me just see what rankings they were. So Porygon Z, Kingdra, Darmanitan Galar is number 17, which is pretty cool. Porygon Z is number 23, Volcarona is 27, Clefable is 29. I believe that's it, right? Did I miss anything? Kingdra, where's Kingdra? Kingdra is 51. Wow, I was way off with Kingdra. So Kingdra was actually like a miscall on my end. I guess, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Primarina is very, very good. So Kingdra being as low as it is, I guess makes sense. Yeah. Darm Galar being up there, Porygon Z being up here. Clefable is actually lower than I thought. 29 is actually very, very low for Clefable. I expected Clefable to be a lot higher than it is right now. Just because, I mean, obviously you can run Life Orb with Magic Card, but I believe the Unaware set is actually very, very strong right now. Especially since it's one of the things that can very, very easily beat Primarina, thanks to you know, Calm Mind and Moonlight. You could set up against it, and then like Primarina can try to enter Calm Mind War with you, but it's just not gonna work because yeah, it's Unaware, right? Unaware ignores the boost of Primarina. So I think if I'm gonna make a call, I think Clefable is gonna rise in usage, because Clefable is good. Personally, right? Like obviously it still gets destroyed by Dracozolt, but yeah, being 29 is it's a lot lower than I predicted. But yeah, I mean I got a few things right, a few things wrong. I mean the meta is still developing, so who's to say? But yeah, I mean I hope you guys enjoyed this quick, it's not a quick update video. It's been like, I don't know how long I've been recording, but yeah. Let me know what other videos you guys want. I'm actually surprised that my my previous video had such a nice like feedback loop, I guess. Yeah, I'm surprised it reached so many people, and like a lot of people seem to like it. So yeah, I'm actually like really enjoying making these discussion type videos. So yeah, let me know what kind of discussion type video you guys want to see in the future. And yeah, oh yeah, and one other thing that I wanted to show, and this is just the team that I used to get to Master Ball. So if you guys are interested, then yeah, go check it out. Basically, it's Lum Urshifu. So I use Lum Urshifu single strike, mostly just because I was afraid that there was going to be some Amoonguss, there's going to be some Yon Snorlax. So yeah, I run Lum Urshifu for that reason. It was pretty helpful, right? You get to switch into Scalds without fearing too much. But obviously you still take a lot from Scald, but it still helps to have a Lumberry here. Choice Scarf Hydreigon for, you know, the Life Orb Dracozolt. It's pretty straightforward. Leftovers Primarina. This is full Fizz Def. I kind of regret not running a bit more speed. I think having a bit more speed on Primarina is really nice. And Sash Diggersby, but I didn't have Flail. I had Foul Play. Flail might be a cool move to have on this set. And Amoonguss for Primarina. Basically, this is my Primarina answer for the most part. But yeah, I mean, this is my team that I used in my push to Master Ball this season. So if you're interested, then have a drive with it. Have a go with it. Yeah, have a go with it. Makes more sense. But yeah, I mean, thanks for watching. And I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.